Hello, hello. Welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry. Himatsubushi. Himatsubushi. Okay, gotta remember that. It took me a while to remember Tatari Goroshi, but I got it down. Himatsubushi. Subushi. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not gonna spend too much time. It was kind of just an introduction. We're playing as a different character that's not Keiichi, and we're sort of look in the past to see what happened during the actual dam project scuffle thing that happened. And apparently, aside from the dismemberment that happened back then, apparently someone's kid got kidnapped as a sort of bribing measure to get what the townspeople want. And apparently the Yakuza, or some sort of, gang affiliated organization, is kind of behind this. And it's not necessarily that they're in charge of the town. It's more that they are the town. It's not like they're two separate entities that kind of see eye to eye to a situation, or like they have, or like this Yakuza organization has full control over the town. It's more that the town is just interlinked with this Yakuza organization because there's people in the town who are affiliated with them. So that's pretty interesting. I don't know how in depth we're gonna get with this character that we're playing as. What's his name? I can't remember his name. There's a couple of names they dropped that are important, like the guy who got his child kidnapped. I forgot his name, and I forgot his position necessarily, but he's just like a high-ranking government official. And the guy we're playing, Mamoru, I think that was his name. I don't know how in depth we're gonna get with this character. I don't know if this character is gonna appear later. So far, he's the point of view character, so he has like no sprite really. We're just sort of in his position. So we'll see about that. But yeah, the last time I left off, I did not read the notes because I was a little tired and it was getting pretty late. That first chapter was pretty long. It was pretty much like 2 hours long. So I was getting a little tired of reading, essentially. So yeah, let's just read the tips, view new tips. So let's check these out. I did not read these. I usually read these at the end of the chapter, but again, it's a little long, so let's check. All right, so let's see this one. Oh, really? Yeah, his wife, Yuki, she essentially is about to give birth. And this motherfucker's like out here like, oh, I gotta go, see what's going on here in this town and these people, what's going on. Whenever I headed out on an assignment, she would ask where. Not just Yuki, but anyone would have asked the same question. If it was a cold place, she would urge me to pack a thick jacket. If it was far, she'd warn me to be careful on the drive over. It was just normal everyday concern that led to asking such an obvious thing. I felt sad that I couldn't answer such a run-of-the-mill question.
Yuki.
Yuki laughed as though she had realized something. At times like this, Yuki had this magical power to see right through me. Oh, wait. I can see the little horn sprouting over your head right now.
あなたが尻尾を振っている音が受話器を通しても聞こえてきますよ。
This side of Yuki wasn't something you could guess existed from seeing her usual modest behavior. It was something that she didn't show to anyone else but me. Ooh. Normally I'd poke her to hide my embarrassment and bring an end to the conversation, but I couldn't do it over the phone. Of course, Yuki was clever. She was teasing me because of that.
あなたを困らせるのがこんなに楽しいと気づいたのはいつからだったでしょうね。
そろそろ許してくれよ。
Yo, give me a break, girl.
とにかく。
そうでしょう。
Oh, whoops.
元気になれましたか?
Yeah, I'd say he cheered up. I had called Yuki to keep her from feeling lonely when she was by herself in the hospital room. Of course, that was nothing more than a pretense that I, being shy, had come up with. It seemed that Yuki had a long since seen through that act.
また電話をしてくださいな。私がダメな時はお父さんが相手をしてくれるでしょう。もっともお父さんが相手ではあなたのことだから電話先でも直立不動で喋っていそう。
For a while, Yuki kept teasing me without letting me end the call. Okay. Phone call with Yuki. Okay, that's cute. That's cute. Chairman XX. Member of the XX Party. Congratulations are due as we are celebrating 25 years since our founding. These past 25 years have been seen much growth in XX Prefecture. The once quiet scenery of nothing but fields now has been the opening of a new stop for the bullet train. And with the development of a highway, we've seen the rebirth of a modern city bursting with youthful energy. We've reaped the benefits of new business and industry. And with the special reverence, the residents of XX prefectures have gone for time-honored tradition, history and culture, business and industry. With these ideals in harmony, they have accomplished in growing their city into one of Japan's foremost metropolises. Of course, the development of XX Prefecture couldn't have happened without the growth of the XX Party. We are resolved to see every one of our campaign's promises to fruition, reaching our target definitely and expeditionally, like arrows firing from a bow. With these arrows as the fundamental basis for the XX Party, our members have sought to pierce the obstruction preventing the happiness of the residents of XX Prefecture. But I do believe that everyone here is unlike an ordinary arrow. While being an unfaltering and straightforward, we have not neglected in seeking solutions that confirm... wait, hold on a second. Okay. I always get paranoid that I didn't click start stream and I just am talking to myself. So sorry about that. I just had to make sure. Seeking solutions that conform to the current day and age while also keeping an eye on the future. An arrow once loosed can fly to its destination. Everyone here, however, is no simple arrow. Even once loose from the bow, without neglecting our studies, while employing new methods and implementing more effective and flexible ideas, thus being able to change the trajectory of mind flight, we are magical arrows. The modern age marches ever forward. Sometimes it marches faster than the time taken from planning to execution. The following part was not in the script. It is thought to have been an ad-libbed by the minister. For example, there have been recent numerous problems with the Hinamizawa power plant project. Rather than forcing through the project solely because it was decided upon by the government, it is necessary to reflect on the adjust to the ever-changing needs of the residents and regions. The residents, the regions, and the next generation. The protests by the local residents that surround the Hinamizawa Dam, these are also the will of the people of XX Prefecture. If you feel that there is no need to listen because the project has already been finalized, then you do nothing more than shed a poor light on Japan's post-war democracy. The following is as per the script. For the lasting happiness of the citizens of Japan and the residents of XX Prefecture, please consider these policies thoroughly. I believe, however, we have all gained something from the flexibility and foresight of the XX Party. I've taken up much of your time. However, allow me to say the following to celebrate the 25th anniversary of our founding. Chairman XX, member of the XX Party in attendance, thank you very much for today. From the opening remarks of the XX Party Prefectural Forum of the 20th Anniversary Celebration. Okay. Interesting. Oh, but gear, fire, tasting like honey. The world is filled with these people, blessed with relationships. Whoa. Of course, that doesn't mean that everyone is connected to each other. It's obvious that on the other side of the planet, there are people laughing and crying who can't possibly have an effect on you. However, in the extremely limited community of the neighborhood, that sort of connection is just a matter of fact. It's quite possible that a single remarkable event could have massive consequences inside a small community. If you were to increase that in scale, a perfect stranger on the other side of the globe might become enough of a legend to have an effect on our lives. Well, it's not always that way. Like I said at the beginning, the links between people basically aren't that relevant in the grand scheme of things. Whether some household nearby is having steak or croquettes doesn't matter to me. When I put on my shoe, it doesn't matter to anyone whether I put the right one on first or the left. This much the average person can understand. But actually, in reality, this is the truth. The bonds between people are quite well defined. It's not just a matter of distance, of being far or near. For example, say that person A's actions have an effect on me. Even then, person B's actions could have absolutely no consequences on my life. The reverse also holds true. Just because my actions affect person A, that doesn't always mean that they affect person B as well. Let's put it bluntly. If the bonds between people are like gears in a machine, the gears that represent me meshes with some people, but it isolated from others. There are some who would try to argue against this. These people would bring up the example of gears in a clock. Each gear indeed only directly meshes with one or two others. However, if you rotate one gear, the next one is moved, which connects to the next one and the next. In the end, all the gears are moving. There is a logic behind this, more than enough to convince the average person. Why is the argument convincing? The answer is simple. The relationship between people are ambiguous and can only be described conceptually. How the gears are connected and how their movements are chained together can't be used as a fundamental explanation, so it throws a wet blanket on the argument. So for the people who like the explanation, I use the example of a clock again to refute it. First of all, to say that this world is a singular clock would be wrong. That is, there is only one clock. There exist many clocks in this world, which count their own time. If you think about it, the idea that this world is just one big clock is the height of arrogance. Even if you use the analogy of gears to explain human relationships, then you should be able to explain it using an analogy of multiple clocks unrelated to a single gear. Neighbor A and B. A is a gear in the same clock as me, so it's best to remain civil. B is a gear in a different clock, so he doesn't really matter to me at all. That's the kind of clear distinction I'm talking about. You want to say I'm being fallacious? Then let's change the analogy to something more familiar so that you can understand. You probably heard the phrase, a fire on the opposite shore, sometime in your life, no? For example, if your neighbor's house was on fire, you'd probably try and help to put it out, wouldn't you? It'd be awful if the fire spread and burned down your house after all. But what if the fire was in a town on the opposite side of the river? Would you still go out of your way to help? You wouldn't, would you? Even though it would be wrong thing to do, there's no way the fire could spread to your own house. Even if it turns out into a huge conflagration, there's no relation between the houses that will spread fire to yours and those that won't. With the basic example, you should be able to see the difference between gears that are or aren't related to your own. Having said that, there's still a lot to think about, even without a river to divide it. After all, it's not a spatial problem like being on the other side of a river, is it? Who said this? Gears and fire and the taste of honey. Where's the honey part? I don't think they mentioned honey, really. The chick in the truck. So basically that other like little segment was kind of just talking this very passive understanding of like human relationship and like community, I guess. Like it's like saying like things, it's basically learning to sort of not feel the pressure of like the world, essentially. Just very, fence sitting, very like, passive lifestyle of like, don't get involved in things that are bigger than you, that don't matter to you, because you can worry about the things that are very close to you. To a certain extent, it's very important to do that, but also like, when things, if the world goes on fire, then that becomes like, I'm pretty sure that's going to be your problem. But by the time that happens, it'll be too late for you to get involved. It's essentially like sort of how I view things, I guess. But like, that's a very interesting way of putting it, I guess. The car has stopped, but he didn't know any more than that. For not only was he blindfolded, but locked in the trunk of the car. How could people become this powerless just by being robbed of their sight? He absolutely wouldn't have known this without experiencing it firsthand. He soon realized it was pointless to try to undo his bonds with the confines of a truck, quickly making him lightheaded. He had no choice but to let this mild nature dull his senses. That's why when the car stopped and the unpleasant vibration ceased as the engine was killed, he couldn't help but delude himself that he was being set free, even though nothing had been resolved in reality. Of course, he was soon removed from the delusion. He strained his ears when he heard one of the men who had abducted him and an older man he was hearing for the first time strike up a conversation. Oh, the chick is in the truck, like the baby chicken.
傷一つつけちゃいません。
おうおう、手間はかけましたの。
The trunk opened, letting a blast of fresh, cool air. Even though up until now he had been thinking about getting out of the stuffy trunk, when it actually opened, he suddenly became uneasy. Enough so that he wished that the lid of the truck would once again close, separating himself from them. Suddenly, someone stroked his head. Of course, since he was blindfolded, he couldn't tell if the hand was petting him or simply evaluating how easy it would be to remove his scalp. Unable to tell the difference, he could only freeze as he imagined the worst-case scenario. The older man said that kindly as he gently stroked the boy's head. Having heard nothing but the average standard dialect his whole life, the older man's distinct intonation left a deep impression on the boy. But he had no idea what he was saying. For your gramps to register as meaning your grandfather took a while to process. Eventually, the hand that was stroking his head loosened the blindfold.
本気にむごい仕打ちは戦議やっちゃっとる。そこんとこ。
わかってます。手荒な真似はしませんよ。小僧がおとなしくしててくれる分にはね。
The man had promped roughly and repeatedly at the boy's head. A rugged hand, unlike the affectionate one that had stroked his head before. Just stay cooperative. If you struggle, there's no guarantee what will happen. The cliched threat was literally beating into his head. Okay, so that was the kid who got kidnapped, I guess. Alright, let's just continue. Those were a lot. These are long-ass chapters. Waking up in a cheap hotel in the city was by no means pleasant. I remember during the long camping trip we had during grade school, I wanted to get home quickly, counting out the days left on my fingers. Waking up this morning, I was somehow reminded of that. Was it a need to be with my wife when she was giving birth? A particular type of homesickness? As a productive member of society, as a public servant bound to fulfill his duties, it was pathetic indeed. Those negative emotions faded as I downed my breakfast, which was surprisingly not half bad. The meeting with the informant that Oishi had provided would be tonight. Until then, I couldn't just be lazing around. The Onigafuchi Guardians was protesting the dam's construction in various ways, including in this was the strategy for improving public relations, which could be categorized into two major forms, combative and peaceful. In regards to former, as an attempt to keep law enforcement in check, they appealed to the public sympathy by highlighting the oppressive and inhuman tactics of the police and the brutality of the riot squad. The latter peaceful route stressed how precious the natural surroundings of Hinamizawa was, seeking people who would oppose the dam on environmental grounds. As a part of that, the village of Hinamizawa had invited celebrated zoologists and botanists, as well as environmental groups, to advertise the nature surrounding the town. According to the news, in recent years, there has been a group calling itself Hinamizawa Nature Watching, setting up free sighting tours. I would have liked to have taken advantage of the opportunity, but when I called the village administrative office, they said it was too late to apply for the tour, and they were still undecided as to when they'd be doing another one.
そうですか。次回の募集はありませんか。残念です。
あんた、環境保護団体さんですか？それとも雑誌さんの人？
いえ、個人です。
個人？観光ですかね？
観光みたいなものです。美しい自然を写真に残すのが趣味なんで。雑誌でとても貴重な自然が残っていると読んだので、楽しみにしていたのですが。
I knew there was an article that had something like that written on it, but hadn't actually read it. Was this ad-libbed lie not going to work? However, contrary to my expectations, the person I was speaking to laughed happily.
ならあんた、検査来なさい。村はちょいと慌ただしいけど、歓迎しますよ。
Yeah, that's a happy ass laugh.
ありがとうございます。
あんた、明日は何ですか？お車？もしそうだったら、先にナンバーを聞いておきますよ。台湾ないんですがね。
That was probably related to the checkpoints they set up on the way to the village. If I didn't give them my license plate number, I would most likely be hindered in various ways. I thought about using the card that I had borrowed from the prefecture, but I was lost on whether it was okay to tell them that plate number. If the Onigafuchi Guardians was behind the incident, there was no guarantee that they wouldn't be able to find out who I was. I had to play it safe, so I elected to refrain from using the car.
いえ、実は車ではないんです。バスか何かがあれば、それで行きたいのですが。
バスならありますよ。もうすぐ廃線になってますそうですがね。そんでいらっしゃい。沖宮の駅から出ますよ。
ありがとうございます。探してみることにします。
本当、いつ来ますひなみ沢さん、初めての土地じゃ、いろいろとご不安でしょう。教えてくれりゃ、誰か行かせていろいろご案内させますよ。
そんな、そこまでしていただくのは申し
気にせんでください。これも村の自然さ守るための PR なんですから。
Judging by what I saw at the checkpoint, the villagers were, at the very least, wary of outsiders. That's why in order to move in and out of the village freely, I had to travel with someone like Oishi, or side with the dam's protest. Having an interest in the natural environment surrounding the village tied into the peaceful type of PR the village was using. I was a bit against having a watchdog attached to me, but that might actually work out in my favor. The entire village was fired up about the dam protest, so I might be lucky enough to hear some especially candid opinions from the residents. Given that there was no real reason for me to refuse their
本
offer.
当によろしいのでしょうか。でしたら本当に助かります。
After that, I was shown the bus schedule and directed to which bus I should get on. Somebody would come and meet me at the bus stop in the village. After showing me around the spot I'd taken interest in, there was no doubt they'd bring me to somewhere like the Anti-Dam Information Center. Then over a cup of tea, they tried to indoctrinate me into accepting their principles and beliefs. Well, if that was their aim, there'd be a lot of freebies involved. The world is about to give and take after all. I couldn't be going in a suit. I pulled some plain clothes out of my travel case and changed into something more casual. After that, after climbing down by watching some local television, I left the hotel and set out for Okinomiya Station. The bus route that I was told would soon be discontinued certainly didn't look that way. There was more than enough trips on the schedule, and the number of passengers was by no means sparse. It was the main link to Okinomiya, the town in the area. The types of passengers that stood out were older folks who didn't look like they could drive, and housewives who didn't seem like they had a license. If the area was submerged at the bottom of the lake, it wouldn't matter if there was a bus route. That's why it was going to discontinue in the unnatural scheme of things. I could catch a glimpse of the government's intent to cut off their means of transportation to bully the village into emptying out sooner. It makes sense. According to the documents, talk between the Ministry of Construction and the locals broke down quite early. The government decided from the start to take an aggressive stance on the matter. It was like a fairy tale with the northern winds and the sun trying to get the travelers to remove his clock. But their bullying and meaning had meaning to it. The reason why the Onigafuchi Guardians resisted so violently was because the government was doing unseemly things like that. I was somebody who lived in Tokyo, so for a village or two out in the boonies like this to be submerged didn't seem like a big deal. But I guess for someone actually living here, it would be a vitally huge problem. Okay, so this is kind of going into the whole, like, the other side of the river. The problems there don't matter to you. Like, it shouldn't matter to you because they're over there, so why do you care? Whereas, like, it's saying, like, it doesn't affect you. Like, there's no cause and effect between each other. The misery of someone in Hinamizawa who's going to lose their home should not worry someone in Tokyo who just lives in Tokyo. They live in Tokyo. This does not affect you. So there's, like, no connection between the two. Like, there's no, like, cogs turning each other. But I guess someone actually, yeah, okay. This route will be discontinued at the end of this financial year. Thank you for your patronage up to this point. We look forward to your continued patronage on our other lines. Okinomiya Transportation. Gazing lazily at the notice of discontinued service posted inside the bus, I counted down the number of spots until the designated one. Along the way, we passed through the checkpoint before without stopping. They knew what time the bus was coming, so they had opened up the barricades ahead of time. From here on out was empty territory. My palms had at some point become coated with thin film of
浮
sweat.
田水道前へ、浮田水道前へ、お降りの方はいらっしゃいませんか？
I hurried past the stop request button as the design stop was announced. For none of the numerous passengers to be getting off here meant that it must be quite a remote place. In actuality, the bus I had gone, the stop I got off was so abnormally run down, I couldn't tell it was barely used. As soon as I stepped out, an intense atmosphere completely different than the interior of the bus assailed my body. Oh wow, okay, we're here. We're literally here. Right now, Oishi and Hondaya weren't beside me. That's right, a present. I was alone in the middle of an empty territory. My advisories probably thought I was just an ordinary tourist, but that was nothing more than a ruse. But if by some mistake my true identity was to be exposed, it brought back the terrifying words I heard at the prefectural office, that if someone was attacked in Hinamizawa with a knife, there wouldn't be any evidence left behind. I didn't seem suspicious, did I? My clothing was certainly casual. It was exactly the type of clothing that a city slicker that viewed the countryside as a wholesome getaway would wear. A camera and a knapsack. Inside were various things needed for hiking. It was still only June, and maybe it was unusual, but the sun was shining down like it was already in the middle of summer. The fact that I didn't bring a hat must seem odd. No, it wasn't something to be that concerned about. It's alright. I was just a normal tourist. Just normal. Was there anything suspicious about me? Asking that, I turned around to look at the bus that was departing. Whoa! All the passengers by the windows were staring down at me silently. Holy shit, that actually kind of creeped me out. I did not think we would get like the fucking Mion scary eyes shit. So that kind of did freak me out a little bit. Just staring, looking down on me. Countless stares rained down like needles on me from the window opened into the from the windows opened to air out the bus. All that rained down were stares. None of them were saying a word, but all the more, their silent stares told me more than a million words could. Hurry up and go back to Tokyo, you outsider. And fuck you.
私は
Holy shit. Yo, my fault. I just saw something crazy. There was no reason for me to speak. My quiet voice was drowned out by the sound of the engine. The bus, as if to torment me, set out slowly, and after doing more than enough to intimidate me, sped off. Boom, boom, boom. A thin film of sweat began to raise my entire body. Okay. On top of that, nobody else had gotten off this stop. It was a bus stop that they normally just pass on by. Somebody actually getting off there was no doubt that had was somebody actually getting off there. There was no doubt that that had drawn some attention. But this wasn't a slip up. They were the ones who directed me to get off on this stop. There was nothing to worry about. I knew that I was just nervous since it was my first undercover assignment. My more seasoned colleagues referred to us as the new generation that didn't know how to lose their cool. But that wasn't true at all. Homie is fucking nervous, bro. There was a small shed there to serve as a shelter if it rained, and it was there I decided to wait. Inside the shed, one of the walls plastered with a poster advertising the dam's opposition efforts. It was like a heartfelt scream of the villagers were recorded on the wall. Inside the shelter, I felt an inexplicable pressure. It wasn't like I had any real relation to the dam project, but it still made me feel hesitant about being inside there. That was just how filled with the force of denial that space was. And inside the uneasy space was a girl. Whoa. Inside the shed, covered in words written on broad brush strokes, berating the policing regarding the dam and calling for action, there was a girl sitting there with a drowsy gaze as if half asleep. The two images clashed so much that I could only stand there dumbfounded for a moment, trapped in such a surreal environment. If I stepped inside, who knew what kind of oafish noises I would accidentally make. I couldn't be disturbing this girl's slumber like that. Having thought this, I gave up on entering the shed. It was just a sleeping kid, so why was I so worked up about it? Finally, I realized this girl, to us as a married couple, was the very image of our ideal child. Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. He's literally waiting for his kid, so there's like another kid here who's probably... It's just like, yeah, that's the kind of kid I want, I guess. Okay, it's interesting. Even after numerous examinations at the hospital, we didn't know for sure what our child's gender was. Whether we could tell if they were a boy or a girl was, in the end, depending on whether or not we could get an image of their genitalia. There was, of course, no guarantee that it was a girl, but with things the way they were, the possibility was high. Even so, Yuki had been saying the chances that it was a boy or a girl were even. But in my heart, I had already decided that our coming child was a girl. Since the day I decided that until now, it was so fun to imagine that our child would grow up that I couldn't help myself. Amongst those numerous images formed, the one that I thought to be the most ideal had materialized right in front of me. Okay. Of course, a little of it was due to the circumstances. In my ideal image, her hair would be on the shorter side. The girl in front of me, though, had long hair. It was almost as if someone had taken my ideal and made some small adjustments. It certainly wasn't something unpleasant. Even so, I felt like I was sullying her just by looking at her like that. She had an immaculate, no, a divine air about her. Well, she is the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, so... Homie's tired, bro. The girl with the angelic smile, with a yawn wide enough to you could see her molars, woke up all of a sudden. I didn't mean to peep, but locking eyes with the girl who just woken up like this somehow made me feel like I was playing a prank on her. Yo, why is her head so big? Her head is huge. I wasn't doing anything shady, but I became flustered. The girl spoke. No. Cried out? Meep. Ah, she's still meeping, bro. She was meeping all the way back there? Back then? That's crazy. Meep. I thought it was just one of those greetings kids do. Yeah, sorry about that. I got a message on my phone. I was a little distracted by it. People are really annoying. They don't leave you alone. Anyway, I thought it was just one of those greetings kids do. So in order to prove I wasn't a suspicious person, I responded in kind. What the fuck, man? Even I wouldn't do something like that. Me? Meep?
Me.
The girl stared at me dubiously with a doll-like expression. Cute, but cold and hard to read. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. There was, after all, an unfamiliar man right in front of her when she woke up, who responded with meep when she said the same. Suspicious. She definitely thought I was suspicious. I mean, I would think you're suspicious, bro.
Me?
Bruh. She's like, yo, Rika's expression's like, bruh. What is wrong with this guy? Are we ever gonna learn why she says meep? Watch it be like some stupid like Game of Thrones shit with the hold door thing. Hold the door! What if it's some stupid shit like meep, meep, hold the door, meep? We were both at a loss for words. I mean, I would fucking be at a loss for words. No, the only one word was me. The only one lost was me. The girl in front of me was so intrigued by my motives, stared at me intently. In this silence, I felt like I was the only one who was saying something first. Damn it, this girl was way better at interrogating someone than Ooshi.
怪しいものじゃないんだ。私は。
Nipa.
Nipa?
What I couldn't have only described as a cold expression suddenly blossomed into a smile, one that soon infected me. You might be familiar with the term angelic smile to me. Angelic smile. To me, it was like that phrase was created just to describe the smile she gave me. The girl smiling while saying Nipa probably wanted me to return the the favor in kind. That's right. This was a kid's form of communication. Having the other person emulate what you just did was a rudimentary form of mutual understanding.
Nipa.
What does Nipa mean? Like, what is meep? Are those like onomatopoeias in Japan? I do not want to look up meep or whatever, because I feel like if I look it up, it'll directly link to like a spoiler regarding to Higurashi, so I'm just not gonna look it up. But I'm wondering if like these are just like onomatopoeias that mean certain things. It was a beautiful afternoon in the early summer. What was I doing?
ニパー。
Well, whatever. This was interesting in its own way. If making somebody happy with just a smile was the work of angels, then this girl was definitely one of them. I couldn't help but pray that my own child, who would soon be born, would grow up to be like this girl. That strangely gentle moment was finally brought to an end by the arrival of a car. An older person waved at me from the driver's seat, a dry smile plastered on their face.
どうも、こんなぞ。遅れて申し訳ないことです。昨日お電話くださった観光の方ですかね。
あ、はい。
お待たせして申し訳ねえ。いや、野良でちょいと遅れましてね。
Because of the farm.
お乗りくださいな。天気もまんた崩れそうだから、ちゃけちゃけご案内しますよ。
天気ですか？
天気？
ああ、ここいらは崩れると早いよ。今日は夕立になるかもな。そうなったら、あんた写真さ撮るところじゃなくなるでしょ。ほら、乗って乗って。
Turning around, the girl was standing right behind me with an intrigued expression. Her body language somehow reminded me of a stray cat that followed you around after you played with it a little. So charming.
Rika-chama じゃねえですか。
It's Rika-chama. Rika-chama. Oh my god, they were a lot more, what's it called? Like, because I think it's implied in like the earlier parts that everyone in the town is aware that Rika is like the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, essentially. So like the way this guy is speaking, it comes across as him being just genuinely way more what's the word? There's a word, I can't think of it, but like praising her and being like grateful to be in her presence. The girl's named Rika with an immaculate smile and an old man praising her while rubbing prayer beads. Oh wow, he even has like prayer beads. It was rather a mysterious sight to behold. So the girl turned her face at me, tilting her head a little in a cutesy manner. After seeing that, the elder introduced me as a tourist who came to sightsee Hinamizawa. The girl Rika said with a smile as she clung onto my arms.
まあね、この村の自然がとても貴重だと聞いたんで、ぜひカメラに収めたいと思ったんだよ。私はこう見えても、とっても写真撮影が好きでね。
富竹2号なのです。
Tomitake MK2? What? What?
牧野、僕も一緒に行ってはいけませんですか？
Tomitake MK2. That's like Mark II, right? Like that's like version 2. What the fuck?
そんな、レカ様が来ても面白いことなんか何もないですよ。レカ様は境内でマリ遊びでもしててくださいな。
Distinctively displeased expression creeped across Rika-chan's face. Being able to show one's emotion honestly on their face was a privilege young children had.
もしお差し支えなければ、この子も連れて行ってあげてください。
When I said those helpful words, another smile spread across Rika-chan's face, with another nipa as she clung to me again. That's actually pretty funny. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, she does have a very, like, charming smile. Ah, not bad at all. I want this girl to call me Papa. Ugh, okay, I don't know about that. No, father. Dad? Daddy? What the fuck is happening to this guy? What am I doing? Yeah, what the fuck are you doing, brother? Ever since I met this girl, I was completely off my game. Just calm down.
肩なかんと。レカ様はダメだ言うても聞かんしな。
Rika-chan never listened.
知ったらんと、己くだし。ささ、リカちゃまも。
Yeah, Rika-chan, come along. Hop on. The old man descended from the driver's seat and opened up the sliding door of the van, which had Onigafuchi Alliance Town Council stenciled on the side. Rika-chan brushed me aside, dove into the seat, and began bouncing around right away. Aww. It seemed like she was thoroughly enjoying the bouncy springs. Oh yeah, right, Rika-chama. Rika-chama, that's what people call her. If you're like that, our guest can't sit down. Girls are nice. I wonder if my child will play around like this too. No. It was written in the guide to raise a child that you shouldn't dot on them. Kids are kids. If you don't raise them strictly without spoiling them.
Nipa.
Oh my god, bro. You're completely enraptured by her, like, charm. I am definitely going to be a terrible father. It was decided that I would be a doting parent before my child was ever born.
風景の綺麗そうなとこで適当にお昼は食べましたかいね。
ええ、ホテルで軽食を。
そんですか。では参りましょうかね。
南沢観光に出発なのですよ。わーいなのです。
君はリカちゃんでいいのかい？
そうなのですよ。フルでリカと言いますです。繰り上がりのと。
ああ、そうなの。それは。
お指とかは折ってませんですよ。ちゃんと暗算でできますですよ。
That's crazy. I can't even do that. The way she insisted upon that was just too cute. I had to be at least a little thankful that I met this girl.
Yeah, 出発しましょうかいね。南沢大自然ウォッチング。
The old man stepped on the gas with a great deal of gusto. She bored. Whoa, is that the bridge? Is that the bridge where Keiichi fell off? Well, you know, fell off, quote unquote. What? Aw, that's cute. She's got a really cute smile. I'm not gonna forget that she said Tomitaka Mark II. That's crazy. What the fuck does that even mean? Is this new? I don't think I remember this song. The old man, who was apparently named Makino, was he the same Makino that was listed in as the auditor of the Onigafuchi Guardians? Showed me around the place that were all breathtaking. Even though I wasn't really here for sightseeing, I couldn't help but be impressed. First of all, this was different from the simple scenery of the city. The scenery of a charming village like this, no matter how mundane, it seemed to me the villagers had a tranquil appeal to it. At first, I was only releasing the shutter as part of the tourist act, but midway through, I found myself taking pictures out of pure interest. Tourist traps had their own unique allure to them, but there was nothing like that here. I was especially captivated by the unspoiled nature of the place. If there wasn't that whole uproar over the dam, I would want to bring Yuki with me here some other time. I want her to breathe the fresh air as well as show her the rejuvenating verdant scenery.
どんなのが面白いのですか？赤坂は変な人なのです。
You're a strange guy.
こういう円筒状の郵便ポストなんて今はとても貴重だよ。
Sightseeing? Why do you find that interesting? You're weird. You're weird, bro. Yeah, this is a new song. I don't think I remember hearing this song before. No, these mailboxes are rare.
どことなく漂うノスタルジックな雰囲気は渋いと思わないかな。
Look at Rika's freaking smile, bro. It's like, hey.
ひなみ沢は楽しいですか？
まあ、退院その時には生まれている。
Oh, whoops.
今は出産を控えて入院しているんだ。
I accidentally clicked. Hold on, let me see.
予定日がもうすぐでね。
Is Hinamizawa fun? Yeah, it's fun. Once she's discharged from the hospital, I like to bring my wife here at least once with a child that would be born by that time. And then she said nothing. But now she's in the hospital waiting to give birth. She's due any day now.
君みたいな可愛い女の子だといいんだけど。
お客さんはもうすぐおめでたですかいね。そんないけねえよ。奥さん惚れ出してこんなとこに遊びに来てちゃ。
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have mentioned that. I was momentarily at a loss for words. It was exactly how Makino said. There was no good reason for a man who was waiting for his wife to give birth to be playing around idly in this place. Did I slip up?
ひなみ沢への旅行は前々からの予定だったんで、妻の家族が付き添ってくれているから。
こんなに前から予定してたんなら、もしかね間に合わんとかいね。いや、そんだったらこんな窮屈な思いさせんと、綺麗な観光バスで回れたのね。
God, yeah, he did slip up. He should not have mentioned his wife at all. It didn't seem as if Makino was actually digging for anything, but if this conversation continues any longer, it would put some unexpected holes in my cover. I halted the conversation by pretending to take another picture.
じゃあ、最後の一番景色のいいとこさ案内しましょうかね。
It was slightly before evening. The sun was still burning brightly, but a cool breeze had begun to mix itself into the air. It seemed my exploration of Hinamizawa with Rika-chan was just about done.
一番景色のいいところですか？
そんなリカちゃま、境内からの景色さを置いて他にはありませんやね。
Hearing that, Rika-chan smiled even more.
では、赤坂を僕のお家へご招待なのです。
リカちゃんのお家って。
神社ですよ。古で神社。高台にありましてね。景色さ見られるんですよ。
古で神社。
Furude Shrine. The girl who called Furude Shrine her home, Rika. If I remember correctly, her full name was Rika Furude. And Furude was, that's right, one of the three families. Even if the Sonozaki family is said to hold all the actual power, it was still one of the old households that held some authority. No more important than that right now was Furude's shrine. If I remember correctly, Oshi had told me. Within the grounds of the Furude Shrine, there were the offices of the Onigafuchi Guardians. And since the land around Furude Shrine was private property, the police couldn't set foot there heedlessly. Furude Shrine, where even Oyoshi couldn't simply set foot into, the main base of operation for the Onigafuchi Guardians. I had been given an unexpected opportunity to enter there. I couldn't have asked for more.
楽しみです。ぜひお願いします。
じゃあ、酒々参りましょうかね。天気も少し怪しいですからな。
Dun, dun. I kind of like this song. It's kind of catchy. Dun, 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 dun. The sky had suddenly become overcast. It wouldn't be odd if it started raining soon. The cicadas, as if trying to finish their daily allotment of chirping before the evening, cried out even more fervently. From what I remember, like cicadas, like they have very short lifespans, right? They die very quickly, so they have to like essentially be born, procreate, and that's what like a lot of the humming is. They have to come in, procreate, and then essentially die, and then just cycle in and out essentially. The van stopped in the shrine's parking lot. Oh, it has a parking lot? The parking there was numerous. Also parked there were numerous other vans with loudspeakers mounted on top of them to act as makeshift propaganda vehicles. On the side of each vehicle was scrawled, "The dam project must be demolished. Defend our homeland to the last. No Oyashiro-sama's anger." Or a slogan of a similar kind. They gave the feeling that even without using the loudspeaker, there was enough to overwhelm an onlooker. Vertical banners were erected in various places. The contents of those banners were smaller or similar. There were all objections against the dam, a crude insult towards the government. There were horizontal banners, placards, and so on and so forth. They proclaimed that without a doubt, this was the headquarters of the Onigafuchi Guardians. For Rika-chan, however, this hectic place was also her home.
着きましたのですよ。ただいまなのです。
Rika-chan crawled over the lap and all over my lap and exited the vehicle first. Makino had noticed that I was looking at the protest banners.
じゃあ、ダム反対運動の事務所も兼ねてましてね。こんな風景も、あんたらには反安保闘争みてえで懐かしいでしょ。
Student movements against government policies, movements that bordered on terrorist activity, were at one time commonplace, if only in order to garner global attention. Students holding out in lecture halls, brawling it out with riot squads that charged in. It was an age where wasting one's youth like that was widely considered a road to glory. It was slightly before my
私は
time.
別に活動家ではありませんので、普通に学び、普通に卒業しました。国の政策にあのような暴力や立てこもりで対抗しようというのには。
はあ、あんた、それはそれで立派な意見さお持ちだね。
政策に意見したかったら、同じ意見の政治家に投票するか、自ら政治の世界に飛び込み、正当な手続きを持って意見を主張するべきである。それが民主政治の原点です。それに、暴力で挑戦するなど、
Bro, what are you saying? Just don't talk about that. You're here to sightsee. For a youngin', you have some fine beliefs. I saw the feeling of respect reflect on Makino's gaze. At that moment, something tugged at my sleeve.
赤坂が何を言っているのか全然わからないのですよ。
Oh, sorry. I thought she said that. Rika-chan, feeling like she was the only one who didn't understand the conversation, had a look of displeasure on her face. She's like, "Yo, bros, what the fuck are you assholes talking about?" The expression was so charming, I had to keep myself from grinning like an idiot. It's often said that a father wants to spoil his daughter rotten. I think I understood the feeling very well.
リカちゃんには難しい話だったね。日本は平和の国だから。自分の言いたいことは平和的に訴えなきゃいけない。暴力で訴えてはいけない。ということさ。
No matter how much I explained, the girl who was just boasting about being able to carry digits over when adding things probably wouldn't understand. It probably wasn't something to talk about in front of Rika-chan anyway.
では赤坂、僕たちの村はどうやったらダムに沈まなくなるのですか？
Even if I regretted my careless words, it was too late now. Here I was at the main headquarters of the organization, telling them their way of doing things was illegal, preaching that violence was not the answer. A complicated feeling had mixed itself in with the respect of Makino's gaze. It was then I finally realized it wasn't that simple. There wasn't a soul who wouldn't argue that what I was saying wasn't correct. Using violence to get one's way was something that everyone knew you shouldn't be proud of. However, right now, Hinamizawa was in a predicament that couldn't be overcome with peaceful means alone. The legality of Hinamizawa Dam project, through the efforts of the various propaganda campaigns enacted by the Onigafuchi Guardians, was being called into question. If they further strengthened their campaign, they might be able to suspend or change the construction plans, but that was the most just possibility. That was at most just a possibility. If the government proceeded with the construction as planned, it wouldn't be long before this place was at the bottom of a lake. If that wasn't from the unrestrained residents of the residents of Hinamizawa, this place might if it wasn't for the unrestrained resistance of the residents of Hinamizawa, this place might already have been underwater.
僕たちはここでしか生きていけないのです。都会では生きていけないのです。
The words of this remarkably young girl were all too accurate, carrying with them a scream of the hearts and minds of the residents of Hinamizawa. Of course, there was nothing I could say to respond to that. I could only respond to Makino and Rika-chan's heavy words with silence.
すみません。よそ者が気安く言えるような問題ではなかったですね。謝罪します。
Makino and Shorta had to reply for a while, could only laugh pointlessly.
お客人たちのようなよそに住んでる方々には関係ねえことです。ひなみざわさ気に入ってくださったんなら、お客人のお友達みんなにも、そういうのが何十年、何百年と広がっていけば、この村さダム底に沈めるなんて、ふざけた計画も、やがてはついえるんですかね。
He followed that with a smile and said, "Please don't think much of it." Makino letting me not worry that much really was a stroke of good fortune. Becoming infatuated with the idea of making friends with the little girl had made me completely forget my apprehension at being an enemy tourist. Being reminded of this right before I was going to step foot into their headquarters might have been a good thing. If we'd had this exchange in the middle of their office, if there was a short-tempered youth in there, they might have come at me. Thinking of how extreme they were, it was worst case scenario. In the worst case, my life could have been in danger. It seemed that I looked quite despondent at the moment. Makino, thinking he had said something wrong, became flustered, trying to think of a way to improve the mood.
本当に軽率なことを言いました。本当に。
そんなね、お気にされないでください。
今日案内してもらった村のあちこちは、どこもとても美しい。もう一度来たいと、心底思わされました。そんな美しい村が、ダムの湖底に沈むことになれば、必死の戦いになるのもわかります。
I had somehow managed to use the despondent look to change the topic in my favor. After a bit, Makino had returned to his usual high spirits. It seemed he believed I completely sympathized with his point of view.
そんな話はこれくらいにしましょう。本当にとても景色さえいいところがあるんです。
行きましょうですよ、赤坂。
Rika-chan seemed seemingly happy to be free from all the boring and gloomy adult talk, bounced up the stone steps. There was no real need to run, but in order to catch up with her, I also darted up the steps. There were several tents belonging to the town council erected on the shrine's grounds. Inside the tents were several folding tables and chairs, and a number of older town council members were livening things up with the chit-chat. They weren't saying anything incendiarily like, the damn project must be destroyed. It was just some relaxing, idle chit-chat between local geezers. The normal sort of charming scenery. At the entrance of the shed that looked like the meeting place, there was a large sign erected with Onigafuchi Guardian Headquarters written on bold brushstrokes. That was their base of operation. To be honest, it was a bit of a letdown. If you ask what I had imagined, this is a bit embarrassing, but I'd have thought it would be something much more dramatic. With barbed wires fencing the barricades, my first impression of the place, though, was completely different from that. It looked like a simple backwater town hall. It didn't look like anything other than exactly that. The old folks who were chatting had noticed Rika-chan's presence.
Rika-chan
Well, if it isn't Oyashi, I mean Rika-chan. I thought this was her home. Yeah, I'm about to say. The old folks goffled since she wasn't wrong. Goffed, I guess. From that exchange, I could tell that this Rika Furude girl was loved by everyone. Oh, what the fuck? You have a sprite, old man?
Oh,
it's Kimiyoshi. This is the same Kimiyoshi who died in part 2, right? He smiled brightly, but there was no mistaking he would be scary if he got angry. By the looks of things, this old man was the president of the Onigafuchi Guardians. None of the other Kichiro Kimiyoshi himself. None other than Kichiro Kimiyoshi.
いかがでしたか？静かでゆっくりしたところでしょう。
ええ、今日一日、美しい場所をいくつも堪能させていただきました。貴重な機会をお与えくださったことを感謝します。
へえ。今時の若い方なのに、また真摯な方だね。
喜一郎、赤坂に見晴らしのいいところを案内したいのですよ。
Thinking that the formality between myself and the mayor had gone on for too long, Rika-chan butted into the conversation. For her to call the mayor by his first name, I felt it was a little strange, but none of the villagers seemed to mind. A girl of the Furude household, one of the 3 families. She was probably different than the average villager.
赤坂、こっちなのですよ。
Rika tugged on my sleeve. Not resisting, I allowed myself to be pulled over. And waiting for me was a magnificent view.
これはすごい。
It was an observation deck that looked down on the village. They, knowing that this was the best view in the entire village, kept quiet as I stood there awestruck. I was holding a camera, but had completely forgotten to even glance through the viewfinder. This view, no matter what kind of film it was printed on, it wouldn't be able to show everything. If there was a way to explain it, it would only be what I would be able to put into words. It was just a breathtaking, spectacular view that I struggled to find a comparison. For a while, I was left awestruck. I could only stand there in wonder. A cool breeze helped abate the heat rushing through my body. That comfortable sensation also left me speechless. Rika-chan, who had been holding onto my sleeve the entire time, spoke.
僕の一番のお気に入りの場所なのですよ。
As she said that, she showed me another adorable smile. The smile seemed very fleeting. If you ask why, that was because the view from her favorite spot would eventually be submerged under deep green water of the dam
こんな
reservoir.
村が湖底に沈むことになってるなんて
I said
信
it
じられないよ。
I said it quietly so that only Rika could hear it. I regretted it soon as I did, for those words were all too cruel. However, Rika-chan didn't let them cast a cloud on her expression. In fact, she replied with a
沈
smile.
みませんよ。ダム計画なんて必ずなくなっちゃいますのです。
It was just like a little girl to say something like that. There was no basis for her saying so. It was just her wish.
赤坂はこの村が沈んでしまうと思っていますか？
沈んでほしくなんかないよ。
I knew how important the dam was. I knew that it was necessary. I didn't want to recognize the sacrifice that would be made. I agreed with the project in general, but couldn't agree with some of the details. But if it meant that this girl's beloved scenery would be taken away from her, I might be able to object to the dam. I might be able to ignore the interests of the nation and the development of Japan, all for the sake of one girl's smile. I'm not really much of a humanist, but how sentimental of me.
沈みませんよ。ダムの計画はもうすぐなくなりますですから。
Her words weren't just hopes and dreams, but they were seasoned with a hint of resolve. As if she was talking about an unchangeable, predetermined outcome. As surely as the sun rising in the
もう
east.
すぐなくなる？
Wanting to ask her why she believed that, I turned around.
はい、なくなりますのですよ。
どうしてそう言い切れるんだい？
それはなのです。
She seemed to want to answer, but as though unable to find the right word, she swallowed back what she was about to say.
赤坂が何をしてもしなくても、ダム計画は今年で終わりになってしまうのです。もう決まっていることなのですよ。
Regardless of what Akasaka does, the dam project will end this year. It's already been decided. That was a lie. If something like that had already been decided, then the Onigafuchi Guardians would have no reason to continue existing. From my point of view, it was like they were doing nothing more than throwing themselves into endless battles. If they knew the dam project was cancelled, it would feel much more relaxed around here. This village, though, could hardly be called relaxed. For evidence of that, I just had to remember how charged the atmosphere was at the checkpoint or at the bus stop. The villagers with the misplaced resolve were still fighting. And this girl, even knowing the villagers' grim resolve, had already declared their victory. The villagers throwing themselves into this endless war, and this optimistic girl who said they had already won. Contrast was somehow strange.
どうしてそう思うんだい？何か確信があるなら私に教えてくれないかい？
Rika-chan stayed silent for a while. Seeming choosing what to say.
だって、
She looked like she was lost on whether she could continue or not. As if she was troubled on whether it was okay for her to say it. That kind of
決まっ
expression.
ていることなのです。他に言いようがないのですよ。
決まっているって言ったって。
It really is just like a little girl to say something like that. I couldn't believe it was actually true. She was the only one saying such things with such confidence. My real mission that I had forgotten about during this fun-filled day resurfaced at the back of my mind. The kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Had the Onigafuchi Guardians kidnapped the minister's grandson and already succeeded in negotiating the cancellation of the dam project? Did Kimiyoshi actually already know that and was just playing dumb? Was that what this little girl was really telling me?
Akasaka,
The girl called out my name suddenly.
なんだい
東京へ帰れ。
Huh? I wasn't only surprised at the sudden command. Ever since I came to this village, I had never once mentioned I was from Tokyo. Well, based on my accent, she might have been able to guess where I was from. What was I getting so worked up over? It was probably the sudden and complete change in her demeanor.
あなたはさっさと東京に帰った方がいい。
Whoa, 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 that voice. That sounds so different.
でないとひどく後悔することになる。
The girl had been holding on my sleeve the entire time. She then tugged at my sleeve since hurried, dragging me over to show me a wonderful view. But this was the adorable Rika-chan, who I spent the entire day with. There was no way she could have been replaced with a doppelganger when I wasn't looking. She had been holding onto my sleeve this entire time, but somehow this girl was someone other than Rika-chan. She looked like Rika-chan, but she wasn't. She was some girl I had never met before. The girl had told me in an indifferent voice that I would eventually regret coming to this village from the bottom of my heart.
それがあまりにもみすぼらしくて気の毒な姿だから今のうちから警告してあげているのです。
どうして私が後悔することになると。
いちいちうるさいな。
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Such cold words from Rika-chan's mouth. I couldn't just believe it. I couldn't believe it. Was somebody impersonating her, using ventriloquism or something? Thinking that, I wanted to take a look around, but the girl gaze had me pinned down, making me unable to move.
あなたの親はあなたが赤信号の横断歩道の真ん中にいるときどうして危ないのかを全部説明し終えるまであなたの手を引っ張らないの。引っ張るでしょ。まず歩道まで連れ戻してからなぜ危険なのかを解くでしょう。つまりはそういうこと。
The girl had spent time with Rika Furude, would not speak like that. She wouldn't speak with the she would speak with the cuteness befit her age, with brief childish remarks, expressing her emotion honestly. She definitely wouldn't speak with such pointed words.
警告はした。勘違いしないでほしいのは私があなたを嫌いだからこういうことを言ってるわけじゃないってこと。死んでもいい人に危険なんかを教える必要はないのだし。
君は誰だ？リカちゃんじゃない。
Sorry about that. Someone just called me real quick. Had to go do that. Yeah, who is this? That's not Rika-chan. You're not her. As soon as I accused her of not being Rika-chan, She let out a strange, quiet giggle. It was a laugh not befitting of a child of her age. It was like she was possessed by something. Her change was just a total and complete. Was Rika-chan being attacked by some terrifying phenomenon? That occult idea came to mind without any sort of hesitation. Rika-chan is acting strange. Somebody help! Thinking that I yelled that, I turned to where the mirror was. I immediately realized he was looking at us with a smile. That's right. To him, it looked like nothing more than me and Rika-chan fooling around. He didn't notice that there was something terrifying happening to her.
赤坂の怖がり
The girl had obviously grasped that I was afraid. Noticing that and calling me a coward, she laughed again. The cackling girl approached me in a strange manner while still laughing, lost her balance and fell flat on her face. Rika-chan fell down. It was just a while before I could have extended a hand to help her up without hesitation, but now extending a hand to this ominous girl who looked like Rika-chan but wasn't, required a bit more courage than I had at the moment.
Me.
The girl cried out thus, and then squirmed upright and dusted herself off. Afterwards, she looked around restlessly as a blank expression crept across her face. You gotta be kidding me. Was she making fun of me? That way of acting. It was as though, after being possessed by something, she had lost her memory of what happened.
冗談だろリカちゃん
Me.
I don't know if Rika-chan had heard me or not. She just cried out like that, as if questioning herself.
リカちゃまもお茶が入りましたよ。塩大福もあるからにぜひ食ってきんさいな。
That is not an old lady. That is not an old lady. That is someone trying to do an old lady impression. An old lady wearing a smock was waving energetically from the entrance of the office. Hearing that there were snacks, Rika-chan's expression changed. A carefree smile. That was a smile familiar. That was a familiar smile. The one that belonged to the embodiment of my ideal daughter. Any hint of the creepy girl that was just there, spouted sinister words, had vanished.
手を洗ってきんさいね。バッチおててにゃ食わせるまんじゅうありんせんね。ちゃんと洗いますですよ。
Rika-chan responded with vigor, running off to the washing station that was along the side of the office. She stopped halfway, turning around to call to me.
早く来ないから、僕は赤坂の分までおまんじゅうが食べられてホクホクなのです。お手手を洗わない人はおまんじゅうが食べられないのですよ。
No matter how you look at it, that was Rika-chan. Those words and the way she said them, no matter how you heard them, they were definitely Rika-chan. This fucking voice.
大人なんだからお手本を示してやってくださいな。
くださいな. The old lady urged me to wash my hands. Without any resistance, I lined up beside Rika-chan at the wash station. Splish splash. I stared at Rika-chan, intent on washing her hands properly, like she had probably learned at school.
間違っていますか？
間違いって。
僕のお手手の洗い方です。金シールを4個しかもらったことないです。僕はお手手を洗うのがきっと下手なのですよ。
間違ってなんかないよ。それだけしっかり洗えてれば十分だよ。
それだけではダメなのですよ。赤坂、ちゃんとたわしを使って、爪の間の赤も落とさないと、金シールはもらえないのです。
リカちゃんは真面目で、偉いな。
Something to...
ニパー。赤坂に褒められましたのです。
Nipa? No matter how you look at it, it was Rika-chan. There was no trace of the girl from before. Exactly what was that sinister
リカちゃ
girl?
ん、さっきのあれは、どういう意味だい？さっきリカちゃんは私に、東京へ帰れって、そう。
言いましたのですか？
I was at a loss for words. She didn't remember what the girl just now had said. Like I said before, like I would ever believe something as occult as that could happen. Like I would ever believe that Rika-chan could be possessed by the strange girl and say those creepy
リカちゃ
things.
んが、確かにそう言ったよ。
Her expression told me that. Despite my saying so, she had no idea. She was playing dumb. She actually didn't know? Exactly. What was that just now? Just as Rika-chan had, I let a look of confusion creep across my face. The two of us, both looking like we had no idea what was going on, must have certainly been a humorous sight to behold. While partaking of tea and snacks, I was shown a propaganda film shot by the Guardians of that highlighted their resistance effort. Older folks talked passionately about how long and grueling the fight against the dam was, but they fell on deaf ear. I was transfixed by Rika-chan, who had heard these stories countless times before and was nodding off. Eventually, Rika-chan noticed I was staring at her and smiled as she rubbed her eyes. The smile was Rika-chan's, after all. There was no hint of the sinister shadow. After that, an unreasonable fear of Rika-chan lessened with the passing of time, but I couldn't by no means forget what had happened. It eventually grew dark. The mayor said that they had prepared dinner, but I said I would come again tomorrow and took my leave. I had to return to the hotel and file a regular report with the section chief.
そうですか。では、また明日もぜひいらっしゃい。お電話さくれれば、すぐに迎えを出しますんでね。
ご好意感謝します。ぜひ明日も遊びに来ようと思います。
ええ、さしてあげてください。あんた、リカちゃまに大層気に入られたみたいだしね。
赤坂は明日も来ますですか？明日は5次元で終わりですから、3時くらいに来てくれると嬉しいのですよ。
That smile is so cute. Even more than her big, XD smile. That smile is really cute. The pure smile urged me to do so. There wasn't a trace of evil aura. Oh wait, hold on. Oh, it's much similar to the old sprite. Same with this one. This one does not look different. This sprite does look very different to what her old sprite looks like. There wasn't a trace of evil aura. Depending on what happened next, all that might end up as nothing other than a humiliation. Thinking about it logically, if the daughter of the Furude household, one of the three families, had taken a liking to me, then this was a strong foothold for my investigation from here on out. It was just like a free ticket for a reason to visit Hinamizawa. If only I could treat that little innocent as a fragment of my imagination, then having this girl who was the embodiment of my ideal daughter grow so attached to me wasn't bad either. I had successfully drove into a belly of the Onigafuchi Guardians, and had the mayor as well as other important members of the alliance welcome me with open arms. This was a great turn of events. However, I still felt uneasy. Getting back to the hotel, I forced down an almost painfully cold beer until I could clear my mind. The shock from the incomprehensibly strange incident continued to torment me. Oh, she's gonna say something creepy. Oh no, it's just gonna end there. I do love these letterboxing endings. It just leaves you with one image, and it's just Rika-chan there smiling. Oh, that's pretty cool. Going smoothly. Why I don't like rainy days. Barley tea, black tea, and a millstone. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna read the tips this time. I'm not gonna leave them out. Let's read the tips. There's just 3 of them. Whoa! What the fuck? Just here at one of the tips, we just see Mion, I'm assuming? She's got her color scheme in the ponytail. It wouldn't be Shion unless it's, like fake. Going smoothly. The sound of a car gear closer, followed by the sound of a brake of its braking as the engine cut out. At that moment, his up until now lackadaisical footsteps grew decisive as the man in the room dashed up to the wall beside the window and carefully peered outside. It was his comrade's car. Even so, he still didn't relax. He didn't relax his guard. Eventually, the sound of the footsteps approached the door. Thump, thump, thump. It was the passcode.
帰ってきたね。開けちょくれな。
ああ、お疲れ。今開ける。
After the lock was undone, the door opened. A man appeared, his arms laden with swollen plastic grocery bags. The bags in his hand had 7 Mart written on them, with bread and milk cartons able to be glimpsed within. The contents of these bags were then spread out over the sheet on the
カップ
floor.
ラーメン買ってきちゃう。お湯沸かせな。小僧はどうしてる？
Oh wait, these are the kidnappers.
手がかからなくて助かるよ。うんこ垂れるときは騒ぐけどな。
漏らさせんな。弁収は万一の時、やばいって。
わかってるよ。
猿グツワは定期的にチェックんな。外れてもまずいん。きつくも締め付けちゃ窒息させたら意味がなん。
わかってるって。あれ、携帯コンロのガス缶頼まなかった？もうガスねえよ。
聞いてねえ。だは。
マジかよ。ついてくれよ。
He rattled the portable stove as he struggled to get it to light. Seeing that, the man who went to buy the supplies let out a deep sigh, and with a backwards glance at the sight, began to walk to the corner of the room. The kidnapped boy, who sprawled out on the sheets that was spread out on the floor.
小僧、元気かいね。
Of course, the man didn't assume the kid was able to hear the question. That was because the boy's ears were plugged, with his eyes and ears thoroughly covered by packed tape. Also, his mouth was gagged with a thin, twisted up towel. Because of that, the boy was unable to close his mouth properly, his cheeks sticky with his own saliva. Of course, that wasn't the only reason. Both his arms were tied tightly behind his back with a leather
今
belt.
んところ順調らし。命の心配はない。お前のじいさんがしぶり寄ったん。耳たぶの一つも切り落とさなきゃならんかったんけ。やらんくて済んで助かりよんよ。本家はこうと決めたら鬼やんね。どんな残酷なこと命令するかも想像つかん。その本家が小僧に傷一つつけるな言うてんから、とにかく順調なんだろうな。
大臣はダム計画を撤回で水面下工作。ひなみ沢ダム計画は無期凍結へ。小僧の解放はいつ頃になるんだろうな。早く一服したいもんだぜ。
本家が決着のタイミング測ってるらし。いつになるかはあらんが。
よかったな小僧。もうじき解放されるぞ。
The man didn't know if their voices were heard by the boy. For him, there was nothing he could do but continue to sleep to escape his harsh
それ
reality.
よん。ガスをどうするんね。ラーメン食えんよ。ガス切れたなら言うてえな、もう。
God damn, that's so fucked up. That is so fucked up. Why I like rainy days. The weather forecast had predicted that it wouldn't rain at all this entire week. It's not that I hate sunny days or anything. When every day is the same, unchanging, sunny weather, however, anyone would long for a rainy cloud or two. It was simply clear skies for the week, a month, a year. Anybody would long for a rain cloud or two. The weather specialist said that they had carefully scrutinized a large quantity of past data, so it wouldn't be likely for the forecast to be wrong. I knew so much. But even then, there was occasionally a day where I was hoping that it would be wrong. As I stared up at the clear blue sky. Was I being mischievous in hoping so? I waited and waited, feeling almost suffocated by the boring blue sky, undisturbed by a single cloud. Well, there's clouds in the picture, so it's kind of hard to see. If you could die from that suffocating feeling, then the population of Earth probably wouldn't have increased to this point. In other words, the only person who was being suffocated by this was me. And so, I welcomed the summer evening where not even the weather forecast could be predicted a sudden shower. If I were to explain it like this, would you understand a bit more about how I feel? Whoa! Let's say tonight's dinner was going to be curry rice, but then you're called down to the dinner table. What was waiting for you was instead an eggplant and bell pepper stir fry. This is just on your mother's whim, by the way. I would be delighted by such whimsy. I don't really like eggplant or bell pepper, but still, I would be delighted. The fact that the pre-established routine of curry rice had been broken would be amusing. If the night was repeated 100 times and 100 times you had to eat curry rice, yet just one night that was changed to the eggplant and bell pepper stir fry, there was no way you couldn't enjoy the change happening. I hate pre-established routines. I really hate when things are all decided beforehand. I had no love for boredom. I always get my hopes up that something someday will be different from yesterday, no matter how trivial. It's been decided that this entire week starting today was going to be clear skies. The weather forecast decided upon it, so the god of weather must also be feeling obligated to do so. But who's to say that the cloud might not show up one day on a whim? It's something that nobody can say for sure, but because of that thought remains in this world, a creature such as myself can continue living without being suffocated. Tomorrow will probably be a hot and clear day. However, the only one that knows the predetermined fate, even with but a slim 1% chance, sometimes changes. Hoping for that 1%, I hung upside down weather charms on the sunlit eavesdroughts. In the end, I spent my days waiting for those unexpected things in life to happen. I pondered why I was hoping for it. Why I was hoping for a rain cloud. The answer was simple. I had my fill of clear skies. Then why was I hoping for a rain cloud? That was a simple answer. The fact that it was going to be sunny tomorrow was boring. So why was I hoping for a rain cloud? In the end, it really doesn't matter whether it rains or shines tomorrow. Basically, it was just the rain would water my heart, which was withered from boredom. That's why, rather than a TV drama where the plot already been decided, I prefer to look up at the sky. Who is talking in these? I wonder who is talking in these. We're getting a very interesting look at someone's like
だいぶ血圧も良くなってきましたよ。
like their philosophy
その
of
とし
life.
てこれだけの回復力があるのは、いやいや、感服するばかりです。お嬢さんなら100でも200でも元気にお過ごしになれますね。
A young doctor in his medical coat said that as he undid the blood pressure cuffs from the arm of the old woman tucked away in her futon. Oh my god, we're getting a sprite of her too.
わしんたいな死に損ないは早うしなんと若者の邪魔になっていけんね。
The old lady Oryu laughed faintly with a broad smile on her face. Then turned towards the sliding door. She called out in a strong
し
voice.
みこさん、かたいこさんおらんね。エリエ先生に麦茶でも入れてやりゃな。
The sound of rushed footsteps from the hallway drew closer until finally the door slid smoothly open. What it revealed was a young girl. It looked like the old lady's granddaughter.
シミコさんは今日はもう上がっちゃったよ。何かよ。
みよ、エリエの先生に麦茶を入れたってんな。
Oh, so that's her.
うん、了解。抹茶も飲む？紅茶の方がいい？砂糖もミルクもたっぷり？
わしが加減するから入れんでええんね。砂糖壺とミルクも一緒に持ってきてんな。
はいはい。
That's cute. The girl named Mion, after giving a rather uninterested response to her taskmaster of a grandmother, returned to the hallway.
先生の麦茶は来客用のガラスジャーに入れるんよ。水滴もちゃんと拭き取っとくんね。
わってるって、うっさいな。
A tired voice wafted a reply from down the hallway. The apathetic tone of the voice was far from unusual. The old lady let a weary smile slip across her face as she chided the girl.
しょうがないやっちゃな。叱られるうちがはなんねえ、なんたく。
お嬢さん、まあ、そこまでは言わなくても、ミオンちゃんも若いなりに頑張ってますから。
あれの母親もな、しょうがないやっちゃったんね。よう似とる。
で、その母親の母親もまたそっくりなんじゃないですか？
The old lady burst out laughing. Her expression showed she hadn't taken the comment the wrong
エリ
way.
エ先生、申し訳ない。症状を開けてもらえんけんね。風が涼しそうだわ。
The cool chirping of the Higurashi had at some point started leaking through the gap in the doorway. Barry stood up and opened the door a bit. A bit? You fucking opened the whole thing! A refreshing breeze pushed out the stale air that had built up in the room.
日中はだいぶ暑くなったように思うんですが、まだ朝夕は涼しいですね。
It was almost...
夕べは少し肌寒いくらいでした。
そんな朝夕もまた、ひなみ沢のいいところな。
Irie replied with a smile as he returned to sit on the cushion beside the old lady. And then the two of them, for a little while, soaked in the voices of the Higurashi.
わしゃ100まで生きにせ。もうしばらくは
Yo,
死ねん
good
よ
luck, lady.
ダムの剣、きっちり蹴りつけるまでは、勘の蓋かって収まらんわ。
国が一度決めたことを撤回するのは、なかなか難しいでしょうね。
国のやることはな、いつの世も、イシウス回すみたいなもんね。そんでも、だいぶ重い。
イシウスですか？
A millstone?
知らんねか、イシウス。
Irie quickly affirmed that, of course, he knew what the old lady was talking about. for he knew full well that Oreo didn't like having her stories
国
interrupted.
のイシュさな。なんでもゴリゴリ引いちまう。大したもんよ。でもな、簡単には回らない。重いイシュースなんねな。たくさんの人間が、せーのってやって、ようやくじりじりと動き出す。そんなイシュースなんよ。
Irie pursed his lips, listening quietly to what she was saying. Eventually, Mion returned with some tea laid out on a tray. Seeing that Oreo was talking and in a good mood, she quietly and knelt down and laid out the set of for the barley and black tea carefully, not to interrupt.
だから、一度回り始めたら、簡単には止められんね。回し始める一番初めが一番重い。
Takes the most effort.
それが嫌だから、みんな手を休めんと、ゴリゴリ回し続けるんね。
摩擦係数の話でしょ。確かにバッチャの話、理屈はあるね。
How old would Mion be here?
何かの間違いで突然イシュースが止まっちまったら、また回すにはどえらい力がかかる。ちゅうこったな。
確かに、一度中断した計画をもう一度動かすのに必要なエネルギーはかなりのものでしょうね。
簡単には止められんイシュースだけどな。一度止めれば、二度とは回らん。
Okay. So basically, if they fail, like, they're done. Like, essentially, like, if this project is like, she's just making an analogy, like, we won't stop. Like, we'll do everything to stop this project. But if, like, if we do stop, we'll never recover from this, essentially. It'll be over, essentially.
そういうイシュースよ。
イシュースを止めるいい手があればいいんですがね。
When the Erie responded with that, Mion and the old lady suddenly sunk into a silence. Erie, instinctively thinking he had said something rude, searched in a small panic for the words to correct himself. But the silence wasn't the result of rude words. For what crept across Mion and the old lady's face were contemptuous smiles. Oh my god! The fucking close-up. Whoa. Oh my god. What the fuck? The atmosphere surrounding Irie suddenly froze, leaving him flabbergasted. Thinking that the scornful smile crept across both of their faces was the result of some mistake of his, could only grow afraid. Wait, was that? He could only grow afraid. Like, what do? I guess you just nervously laugh just to get them to not. It hadn't been that long at all since he was enveloped by silence. However, unable to stand it, Irie could only let out a weak laugh. Irie's laugh eventually spread to Mion and the old lady. Not knowing exactly what they were laughing at, their laughter left a lingering chill. The only one not laughing were the Higurashi, who continued their simple and unchanging course. Okay. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So far we got like the kid who's like still trapped by like these kidnappers. A second like monologue, like just like the internal thoughts of someone rambling about. The first one was like, oh, you can't, like, people are not as connected as you think they are. What happens somewhere else is way too far for you to ever affect you. So just worry about the closest people to you. And then the second one is sort of talking about like, I would rather something strange happen on occasion because I get very bored by the mundane like schedules of life. And this other one, I think it's just showing that like, you know, like the people here, they're dedicated to their cause. And basically, if the town goes down, they all go down with it. Like, that's just sort of what it's trying to say. Like, if it goes down, it goes down. All right. I'm just gonna save here and call it a day. That was pretty good. Pretty good. This is interesting. This is pretty interesting. It had a slow start. I think all these have a slow start. This one had the fastest, I guess, but I guess since it's not structured in the original format of the first 3 parts. But yeah, this part was really good. I was really invested in this. I guess I'm a fan of like the whole detective goes into a weird town. I like Twin Peaks. I like Deadly Premonition, I guess. I don't know. Stories like that. I like that, stuff like that. So this has a very interesting atmosphere. It's very interesting to see Rika very young, like much younger than she was. And these tips are actually very well written. I can tell that specifically these two, the Gears and Fire and the Taste of Honey, and this new one, Why I Like Rainy Days, like you can tell that Ryuki Shio-7, he's gotten better at writing. His writing has gotten much better. He's pretty good at atmosphere and like feeling certain things, but his actual like prose, I guess, I mean, at the end of the day, we're reading a translation, so it's not really his like prose, but at least the interpretation that people got from it seems to be a lot better. So I'm definitely enjoying these stories a lot more, especially 2 onward to a certain extent. But yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Fun read. I'll read next chapter. I think this is a short part. This isn't a very long part at all. I think it's only like 8 chapters or so, or should be, from what I remember. I don't know. Much shorter than the rest of the series. So yeah. With that, thank you for watching. Anyone who stuck around. Pretty good. I'll probably be back maybe Friday. If I'm not lazy, I'll do Friday and Saturday, and then Monday and Tuesday again. We should be done with this part relatively quick if I do that. So yeah, thank you for watching. Take care and have a good day. Bye.